Welcome to Sikhcast, brought to you by Sikh Research Institute, illuminating every path.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Jasleen Kaur, and I'm a trans creator on the Guru Granth Sahib project. We're excited to announce the release of Guru Granth Sahib's Vanjara. So this composition is revealed in the musical mode or rag of Siddhi Rag, which is an ancient dusk time musical mode that evokes a sense of thoughtfulness and introspection. We're usually asked to kind of take the advice quite seriously and act on it, and to foster love and devotion within ourselves, to cultivate that within ourselves. So in this composition, our minds are addressed as roving traders, and we're also kind of addressed that way as people who wander and transact in the world. And the sort of question then becomes, how does the mind stop roving? How do we experience steadiness instead of oscillation and wavering? And how do we understand what it means to be fortunate and what we ought to be trading in? So the stanza I wanted to talk to you all about is stanza 4. And the Dahal line is, Man har har japan kare, har gur sirnai, baj po jindu, sab gilvik duk barhare. Dahal. As always, excuse my pronunciation, but the translation is, recite the har har recitation within the mind. Run and enter the sanctuary of the Guru-like Hari, O inner self. Hari will remove all sins, sufferings. So in this stanza, you'll see a lot of repetition of the divine name or attribute Har or Hari, which is the one light, the all-pervasive, the remover of suffering, the fear eliminator. And in the Dahal line, the question that we might ask is, like, what does it mean to recite this recitation of the one within the mind? And that recitation is not a physical discipline. It's about a kind of contemplation within the consciousness that affects that inner self that's being addressed, or the being within the body, the life force in the body. So the Guru's instruction to us and to our minds is this: cultivate a relationship with the one, identify with the one, remember and praise the one within, such that your inner being is in relationship with the Guru, with the wisdom, and such that in the refuge of the Guru, in the refuge of the wisdom, we can meet the one. I love the imagery of run, run to that refuge. We're urged to run. We're kind of urged out of our dilly-dallying or hemming and hawing about when it is that we will finally seek that refuge. We're urged not to delay. Because if we're in that refuge, if we're practicing contemplation of the one within, all of our crimes, all of our classically religious sins or transgressions or just missteps in life will disappear from us, will vanish from us. And all of the suffering that those things cause, right? These things are all kind of born in the mind and they cause us great pain. But they're taken care of when we're in that refuge. Because the wisdom does not only operate in the mind or in the body, it operates in the consciousness, which then changes the body and changes the mind and changes our behaviors. The other kind of, beautiful thing about this stanza is the dwelling on who Hari is, who Ikonkar is. And the Guru reminds us the one Ikonkar, own self creates, own self gives life to beings, own self takes it away, own self puts us into delusion, own self misleads us. And own self imparts understanding, right? This is the kind of play of the one. And, that play might cast us into doubt. It might cast us into feeling the presence. It might cast us into forgetfulness. And so the reminder is that everything that we categorize as good or bad, fortunate or unfortunate, is part of that natural play of Ikonkar. So even that kind of binary is being turned on its head. Everything that happens because of Ikonkar. It happens through Ikonkar and it happens because of Ikonkar. And we might know that logically and remind ourselves of it, especially when we're frustrated about our circumstances. But I think it's much harder to understand and accept through our experiences. And that's why the Guru says it's only those wisdom-oriented, rare beings who realize that the one alone is everything. It's only those who realize this. And it's those rare beings that the Guru devotes to, adores. These are the seekers who have come to an understanding where they've recognized Ikonkar as all-pervading. They've experienced Ikonkar as present, as ever-present, within them, their inner selves, within their minds and bodies, and in the world around them. And it's through this kind of wisdom that they bloom within. So that imagery that I really have been thinking about the last couple of months is of the lotus blooming within. The Guru says that the lotus has bloomed within, that the Nam, or the identification of the one, has come to dwell in the mind, and that this blooming has taken place. And the reason why I want to dwell on that a little bit is because blooming is not a quick transaction. I've probably said this before, but if you look at a sped up video of a plant blooming, the majority of that time lapse is this thing like squirming under the dirt, like taking in sunlight, converting it to nutrients, but everything is kind of just like moving and wriggling under the earth. And then it comes out of the earth, but then even then the blooming doesn't happen. When you watch it sped up, like the blooming is like a pop. And so this is not something that happens quickly. It's something that kind of wells up and takes a lot of effort and cultivation within. But the thing that's really beautiful about that imagery too is also that like lotuses bloom and thrive in the murkiest and muckiest of waters, right? Like even in the worst situations or scenarios, the least fortunate environments, we can also bloom through the wisdom. This is not a thing that's only accessible to those who have quote unquote like good fortune in the ways that we understand fortune. It's accessible to all of us. And the lotus transcends kind of the impossibility of its surroundings in a way that we can also transcend the impossibility of our environments or our surroundings or our circumstances. The lotus is also invoked in classically religious paradigms as kind of like a symbol of enlightenment. And the thing that's really cool here is that in the Buddhist paradigm, enlightenment is not about particular disciplines or efforts or rituals or even like good fortune by birth or by circumstance or positionality. Enlightenment in the Buddhist paradigm is just that the one has come to dwell in the mind. And not even like literally come to dwell. It's that we've been able to feel that constant dwelling that's always been there. And so that empowering thing there is that the one is always dwelling within us. And the question is whether or not we are feeling it, whether or not we've come to understand these paradoxes of the one within our consciousness, and whether we've made that effort to recite the recitation of the one within our sort of inner selves. So there are 6 stanzas. I encourage you to spend time with them and think really sort of personally and sort of dwell in that introspection that City Dog asks of us to wonder what it is you're transacting in the world, what it is you want to be sort of trading in, how you feel you understand good fortune maybe differently than you did before, and how you understand what it means to run to that refuge, to stop wavering, and to think more deeply about what you're accumulating and what you'll take with you when you go. I know I'm thinking about those things lately. So, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Read the translations and commentaries at gurugranthsahib.io.
You were listening to Sikhcast by Sikh Research Institute, illuminating every path.